I was about 14 years old when the dot-com bubble collapsed. And I distinctly remember how it seemed like everything was on a fire sale. Nobody was buying a car or going on a trip. And I remember thinking to myself, when I grow up, I'm going to conserve during the boom when everybody is spending and spending and spending. And during a recession, I'm going to spend all my money. And I could get a better deal that way. So I knew that concept as a very young kid before I even read anything about it. Just from observing my family and friends during the dot-com bubble, we were constantly going out to eat, but so was everybody else. And so the restaurants were crowded, and rarely did you get any sort of deal. We during the dot-com bubble, we traveled quite a bit. I have family in Taiwan, and I had extended family members in California. And after the dot-com bubble collapsed, we didn't do that nearly as much. But then I noticed that the cost of doing that was a whole lot less. And so I remember thinking, I was only 14 years old at the time, but I remember thinking to myself, when I grow up, I'm going to do the reverse. During the dot-com bubble, I'm going to save up. And after the dot-com bubble collapses, I'm going to have the whole plane to myself because nobody's going to be flying. I'm going to eat out more because nobody's going to be eating out. And maybe I'll, if I want to get married, maybe that will be a good time to pay for my wedding. I remember thinking that. This was long before we knew about Warren Buffett and his famous line. He says it as, be greedy when others are fearful, and be fearful when others are greedy. I wasn't thinking in terms of investing in stocks or bonds, so I was thinking, be thrifty when others are spending, and vice versa. But I have another idea coming up. So I'm recording this in 2020 during the height of the COVID-19 crisis, obviously. So this is the stock market adjusted for inflation, and you notice it has a 40 to 50 year cycle. And there's a very interesting reason for why that happens. It has to do with generational trends. If you have a baby boom generation buying into a stock market, saving up for retirement, they're going to get into a lot of competition. They're going to retire, and they're not going to do too well in retirement, right? And then you have this is baby boom. This is greatest generation. This is the silent generation. They got a steal on their market, and then they got to retire into this, right? The boomer generation bought into this and retired here, right? Generation X buys into here and retires here, and so on, right? So if you're born into a sparse generation, you're going to do well in retirement. If you're a baby boomer or a millennial, you're gonna have face a lot of competition for anything, right? For going to school, for careers, for retirement, for looking for your life partner. Everything is going to have a huge amount of competition associated with it, right? Now, it made me think, because I'm a millennial, and I'm thinking if I could keep my body healthy, instead of competing against other millennials into rising markets, I could compete with Generation Z folks, right, and buy into falling markets, right? So that's number one. If you're a millennial, keep your body healthy. Your body will thank you for it. If you're a Generation Z, keep your body even healthier so you can compete with those two generations before you. Okay. Now, the other thing I'm thinking about is that in 2020, the birth rate or the fertility rate around the world, let's see if we can find it. Fertility rate by country. You can get it sorted by country. Now here's what gets me really excited. So, okay, obviously some of the African countries have very high rates. What's the lowest? It's probably China. Singapore, Macau, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Puerto Rico, South Korea. Really, Poland is on here because I've dated two Polish girls, and I broke up with both of them over an argument about them wanting children. So a little bit surprised that's there. And plus, I've been to Poland a few times, and they seem to have a lot of younger people there. Japan, no surprise there. I would have guessed Japan had a lower rate than Poland, but you get the idea. Most of the first world is below 2, which is what you need to replace, right? You need 2 children to replace the mom and the dad, right? Now, here's the thing. Be greedy when others are fearful. Be fearful when others are greedy. Have children when other people aren't. Don't have children when other people are reproducing like crazy, because your children will have more opportunities going into going throughout their lives, right? It makes me think COVID-19 is probably going to result in it's going to result in one big peak, right? Because people are quarantined, but probably not much after that, right? So I might have to reevaluate my thoughts on whether or not I want to have children over the next couple of years.